It's time to talk horse racing with the one and only Chad Summers as we enter the stretch run for the Kentucky Derby 2022. And Chad, here we are. We have one little bitty Kentucky Derby prep race left to Lexington. And other than that, we're pretty much set.
Well, the little bitty's interesting because there's a horse right now that's on the outside looking in Tawny Port who got 40 points, so we thought was going to be enough to get in, who's actually 21 on the list right now and is planning on running in the race. And if he runs in the race and wins or runs second, he'll have more points than Charge It, and Charge It might end up back outside again. Obviously, we might have some defections we'll talk about, but the Lexington actually does take on a little bit of importance right now as Tawny Port is trying to secure his final spot to be the third part of the trio for Brad Cox.
So what do you think is going to happen?
I think he's going to run. And I think they're going to, hope that he gets in there. I think he's better on the turf. He qualified by running second in the Jeff Ruby Stakes, STEAKS, your favorite stake race of the whole Triple Crown prep season. And look, he ran okay in Fairgrounds. He ran okay. I think in the Lexington, he could certainly win. It wouldn't be a surprise. Also, Bye Bobby, who was second in the Sunland Park Derby, is taking a shot in there. So there are some horses trying to get some final points to secure their spot. And, Kenny McPeak ran Rattle and Roll 3 times in 5 weeks. Maybe he'll put him in Lexington, too, and try and get some more points.
Bottom line, though, any of those horses, no chance to win the Derby.
Probably not, no. Look, you got to be in it to win it, though, Greg. You can't. The one thing I can tell you, it's a big gate at Churchill, right? You can't win it from stall 21. That's the only thing I can tell you for sure. You can win from stall 20. You can't win from stall 21.
Is that a lock?
That's a lock.
Let's take a look then at. Well, Epicenter's running away with it as far as the points are concerned. Zandon won a big race on Saturday. Matter of fact, that was the Bluegrass. And John Hardoon, and if you didn't, we had 2 shows, by the way, on Saturday, because we had 3 Derby prep races. So we had 2 shows, one for free, and one was on patreon.com/PrimeSN. That's where you have to spend a whole whopping $5 a month to get John's picks, minimum 8 races a month. Sometimes you get more. Matter of fact, this month, we're going to have a special. So I haven't figured out. Maybe you can help me out with this, but we're going to give away one of those Kentucky Derby Futures tickets because thanks to you, John went ahead and purchased all those tickets before it was fashionable and before anybody knew how good Cyberknife was. I think he has him at like 35-1. He has one ticket at 70-1 or something like that. I think he said.
Yeah, he didn't tell us about those tickets. Listen, what about some of our listeners? We had in the comment section last week, our man Richard, he said he's got him at 66-1 each way, betting over in England. So people who listen to this show, whether it be the shows you do with me on Monday, the shows you do with Jonathan on Friday, they're making money. The shows pay for themselves.
There you go.
It's really that.
I don't understand
right?
it.
I think Jonathan is the winner of every one of the Triple Crown races, the prep races on Saturday.
So we're gonna have the Kentucky Derby special. Now we're gonna be doing that show. You're gonna be on that show. You and John are gonna be both at Churchill when we do the show. And that show, well, I don't know. You tell me. Should that show be free or should we put that behind the patreon.com/PrimeSN wall?
So we have to see what the viewers say.
Yeah, the viewers. I don't want to pay for it.
Sometimes you got to give them a pay. Look, I think the one thing that's for sure.
That'll probably be for free because I remember last year we had like over 1,000 views for that show.
Yeah, I think that with the Oaks and the Derby this year, it's shaping up to be a really, really epic weekend. That in years past, when you make that march to Louisville on Derby week, there's normally 2 or 3 horses that everybody's kind of circled in on as the most likely winner, as the easy favorite, and then you see what happens, and more times than not the favorite gets beat, but at least you go in there like these are the most likely winners. And this year, I mean, I'm looking at these polls that all these other so-called pundits are putting out there on Twitter and social media and everything else, and everybody's got a different number one.
That's
Every
great.
week it's a what have you done for me lately? Now everybody has decided that Taiba off his 2 lifetime wins is automatically in the Derby. They might as well just mail the trophy.
Oh, he's the new. What would you say? What's that term? He's the.
What have you done for me lately?
No, there's that fancy term John likes to say. Not the smart play. What is it? I don't know. There's a thing of when the wise guy, is that it? A wise guy is the wise guy pick.
No, well, normally the wise guy pick isn't the favorite. He looks like he's going to be one of the top favorites
with two races.
Yes.
Has a horse ever won with 3?
Justify made his 4th start. So Justify would be the one. He'd be the lightest racehorse in the race in something like 35 years.
In the race, let alone winning the race.
Yeah, just the horse that only have a few starts, 2 starts going into the race. It's only happened, I think, 4 times in history.
It's amazing. And that's going to wind up being one of the co-favorites.
Yes.
Yeah, see right there, it just shows you that that's just the odds are just not with. Was it Taiba?
Yeah.
It's just not. That's just the odds just aren't with the horse. Not to say that. I mean, I did you find out? I got to get the sheets. That's a good. I got to find out what John's what numbers he comes up with some of these races this week. What do you think he ran?
I think he ran really, really fast. I think the sheet number is going to be better than the number I would have assigned to him. He was hung out wide. He chased a fast pace, and then he was able to finish up very quickly. But the most important thing to me about this horse is owned by Amr Zendin of Zendin Racing, and they won the Derby last year with Medina Spirit. This horse, when he was purchased as a 2-year-old for $1.7 million, his name was originally Taiba Spirit. And he went to the sidelines after breezing for a while and came back and they got rid of the Spirit. So I'd like to find out between now and the Derby why they removed the Spirit from his name.
Okay.
Just an interesting fact.
Well, that'll be one of the questions we will find out when you're at the Derby.
Yeah, at the end of the day, though, the horse is freaky fast, and he's going to go in with all the hoopla and all the buzz. I'm afraid that he ran too fast last time, and I think he's gonna be in a very precarious situation when he comes to the Derby. And to make the Derby now, you have to keep pushing on a horse who's only run twice. And in his career so far, he's beaten 11 horses in his career total, and now he's going to have to beat 19 in one race. So there's a lot of.
I remember this was the Santa Anita Derby. There were like 3 good horses in the field.
Correct. So to me, look, all the credit in the world to him, but I'm not anointing him as the champion yet. Okay. And I want to see him train. I want to see him when he decides to ship over and what happens from there.
Okay. Why? What do you mean? You personally?
Yeah, I want to watch. I want to have my eyes on him at Churchill Downs and see how he goes.
Okay. So you mean there's a possibility that you might change your mind after all this time?
Yeah, there's always a possibility. Life's full of possibilities. Look, Forrest Gump said life was like a box of chocolates, right? So anything's possible.
All right. Yeah, I was just showing the replay, by the way, of Taiba. Now, were you not surprised that since Forbidden Kingdom was already in the Derby, that this performance took place? Because even though he had the lead, or do you think, no, I'm not going to say that. He was trying to win. He just didn't perform well.
He's out of the Derby now. He's not running the Derby.
What happened?
He's got an inflamed throat. He's got a sore throat from the race, and he has been removed. So he won't be running in the Derby. So yes, every prep race matters, even if you have the points to get in. And whether or not he was all out, look, he went a little slower than he went to the race before when he kind of bottomed out and he was in front by 6. But I mean, he was being chased by a faster horse in Messier. So it wasn't a complete surprise. We had our reservations about him. I know Jonathan on your show had his reservations about him.
Yes.
And when you're a horse like that acts like you only have one way of going, and that's going to the lead, you live and die by the sword. And for him, he died by the sword because Messier didn't give him a break. John Velasquez, had run against him a few times, was aware of the horse, and rode a smart race to make sure that he wouldn't win. He made the move earlier this time than last time, and this time it paid off. Except little did he know that here comes Taiba, a horse who he rode first time out, who was able to have a good ride with Hall of Famer Mike Smith and pick up the pieces when Messier did all the dirty work in front. But they both move on to the Derby. They both make an appearance in the top 10 list for us, but I still don't think that either of them are the Kentucky Derby winner.
You don't have Messier.
Did I take him off the list?
Yeah.
Okay, I took him off the list.
I was going to ask you about that. Why did you take him off the list?
I don't think he'd win. I really don't think he'd win.
Okay.
I think there's 10 horses better than
So these Santa Anita. So again, just like we talked about, this Santa Anita race just wasn't. Even though the sheet, I think John, he says they're still working on it. He believes it'll be between 4 and 6, which will be still an improvement. I mean, that's just going to be incredible to go from first race 7, second race you're better than that. That doesn't happen very often, which is why when it does happen, you better get the horse to the Derby, I guess.
Well, I mean, the only other horse to me that comes to mind with that is a horse named Flightline, who's run some freaky fast numbers on the sheets. And he needs so much time between his races. I think he runs once every 4 months. And so to run those kind of numbers from a sheet number perspective, yeah, wow. All the credit to you. You ran a great sheet number. From a physical standpoint, the sheet guys will tell you, and you can talk to Jonathan about it on Friday. The sheet guys will say, listen, a run back in 4 weeks off of that number is career suicide. And I mean, the horse is a really, really nice horse. I would think that if it wasn't the Kentucky Derby, the Preakness would make a lot more sense for that horse than the Derby. But look, Ammer's been right about everything so far. He bought he bought this Medina Spirit for not a lot of money and turned out to be a really nice horse. He bought into the horse that won in Dubai, Country Grammar, second for $20 million. He won the Dubai World Cup. Didn't pay a lot of money for him. He bought half interest in him. So it seems like everything he does is right. Everybody, and when I mean everybody, I mean everybody told him not to run this horse in the Santa Anita Derby. Everybody, his agent, his veterinarians, his trainer, both of them, the assistants, the owners, the shoe shine guy. It didn't matter. He was running in the race. He had this plan since he broke his maiden, and he was right. The horse won, and he won a $750,000 race. It's a grade 1. It's a stallion making race. All the credit in the world to him. But now you're going to do one more thing, and it's a giant, giant ask to get him to do this. If he were to win the Derby, it would be an even more impressive feat than Justify.
Yes. That's why the odds are just to
me. And the thing, too, Justify, I think, beat a very suspect field. Okay? When he won, he was a brilliant horse. And it was his 4th start, not his 3rd. But he didn't beat anybody in that race. That was a bad Kentucky Derby. And this race, from what we've seen, while it's not the deepest from 1 to 20, the top 6 or 7 horses all look like they're nice horses. They have different running styles. And that's why it's going to be fun leading into this, because there's going to be a lot of debate for who should be the favorite and who's ultimately going to win the race. And ultimately on May 7th at 6:04, whatever time it is, we'll crown a champion. And hopefully it'll be a chestnut.
Let's take a look at one of the 2 races that John correctly predicted on our show last week, and this is from the Bluegrass, and this is Zandon. Now, basically, it really turned out to be, which we kind of thought it was going to be, a 2-horse race between Zandon and Smile Happy. So, what did you think? First of all, before the race, I'm assuming that you thought Zandon was going to win. So what did you think about Smile Happy's chances?
Look, Smile Happy's a very, very nice horse. I thought he ran well in look, they both came out of the same race. They both came out of the Risen Star. Smile Happy was 2nd and Zandon was 3rd. They both looked like they needed to come on from that race. I didn't like that Kenny McPeak wasn't committed to what race he wanted to run, and when right away Chad Brown had said Zandon's going to the Bluegrass, this is where we're going. So I always like a trainer that has a firm plan in mind, and that Chad Brown executed that plan to perfection. The horse went well. Kenny McPeak made a mistake He said the day before the race that you needed to have a bear to beat Smile Happy. To which Chad Brown then tweeted on Saturday night, "I guess I brought the bear," with a bear emoji, which I thought was very clever. So Paddington Bear and Zendin will go on to the Kentucky Derby now. I think the thing with both of those horses, and they're both going to get played. Look, I think Zendin will probably be somewhere between 5-1 and 6-1 morning line. He'll probably be the second or third choice in the Derby, and he'll take a lot of play. And everybody's going to talk about how Chad Brown's never won the Derby, but he's won every grass race. Blah blah blah. We heard it all last year. Smile Happy will probably be about 10-1 or 12-1, and I think that both of them are going to be interesting because we had some news this week over the last 48 hours of horses who are no longer going to the Derby. Okay, and that's horses like Classic Causeway, who was in that first race,
which John didn't like anyway, right?
Yeah, so he was in the Bluegrass. Horses like Kingdom Road, who was in the Santa Anita race. Emmanuel, who was in the Bluegrass, who was on near the top for a while. All of those horses are out. Early voting might not go despite running second in the Wood. Morello might not go after missing the break. We'll talk about the Wood in a second. So when you have all of that, all of a sudden now what looked like was going to be a ridiculous speed craze race. We talked about it on the show a month ago.
Yes.
That, every horse needs to lead. What's going to happen? What's going to happen? Now it went from a race loaded with speed to a race with not a lot of speed. So a horse like Zendin, a horse like Smile Happy, a horse like Mo Donegal that won the Wood, that are pace compromised. They don't break very fast out of the gate. And at this stage, look, when you're a month out from the Kentucky Derby, you're trying to work on a few things. You're trying to still work on the stamina because it's the first time you're going to ask your horse to go 1.25 miles. So you're still working on building up that stamina with those long gallops and putting air into their lungs. You're going to get a couple of important breezes now. You saw Steve Asmussen with Epicenter breeze on Sunday, Zozo's breeze on Friday. So these horses are going to start now fine-tuning, putting in their final preparations. They'll have 1 or 2 big works, 1 easy work going into this race. You're not going to spend a lot of time with them in the gate other than just schooling them, walk in, walk out. Zendin does not break out of the gate very fast. Okay, he's shown this in every one of his starts that he breaks a little bit behind. Now he showed that he has a lot of ability and a lot of heart, and he runs through traffic. He did it in the Risen Star. He did it against me first time out when he beat us and we were second with Matt Doyle, and he did it again in the Bluegrass. So the horse doesn't mind running behind horses, taking dirt and stuff like that. But in a 20-horse field, if they don't go very fast, he needs to have an unbelievable ride. Okay, now Flavian Pratt's going to ride him in the race. He rode him in the Bluegrass, and he is one of the top 5 jockeys in the country right now. But everyone is commending him for his ride that he gave in the Bluegrass. The ride in the Derby is going to have to be even better because he's going to have more traffic trouble, more issues. The horse will not break on. He's not going to break in the first half of the field.
No matter what post position that you think is just going to compromise him too much.
Well, I mean, with a horse like that, it's not the post isn't as important because they're going to run away from him, so he'll be able to kind of get over. In a perfect world, you don't want post 1 because you can get squeezed out of there from the speed horses trying to get over. 1, 2, 3, you're going to get all the way shuffled back. You know, if you're more in the middle and more the outside, you can let them get away from you and then get over and save some ground. But then if you're 19, 20, whatever, you're going to lose all that ground trying to get all the way over to save ground. And then when you're trying to save ground, you're in no man's land because when you're trying to make that move, you have tiring horses coming at you too. It's very, very tough for closers to win the Derby. Normally that the Derby is won by a horse who's laying somewhere between 3rd and 7th.
Like a stalker, yeah.
Like a stalker, because less things go wrong behind them. And then you kind of move forward from there. The front runners get tired. You make first move and you try and hold on. Look, there are things where it happens. Mind That Bird comes to mind, where he has this, just kind of remarkable Disney-like performance and stuff like that. It's going to need to be a performance like that to get a horse like Zendin in. And when you're going to be in odds of 5-1, 6-1, you're holding your breath the whole time.
Sure.
Thinking, oh, well, he did this. He did this in the Bluegrass. He can do this again. And Chad Brown told everybody the horse was training phenomenal, and he ran a great race. From a physical standpoint, I think, and I've watched him up close and personal. He was getting a bath next to me. I know we talk about our baths. He was getting a bath next to my horse after he beat me first time out. We were second in the race. He is very, very upright. And so for that, I just feel like it's going to be very difficult to train on him too hard. So I would think his breezes into this, where you'll see somebody like Brad Cox working Zozos, coming home in 23 the other day. Epicenter breeze easy this week, but he'll pick it up next week. Some of these other horses, they're going to have some serious works going into this race. I would expect a horse like Zenden not to work that hard off the stressful race he just had. He'll only have 2 works, and I think the 2 works will be relatively easy. They'll be in company. They'll be controlled. He'll look good, but he's not going to go 47, 48, and so he's not going to have that sharpness, which means, again, he's going to fall out the back door at the start of the race, and I just think that's going to compromise his chances. But we'll see as things go on, if the field shrinks down and stuff like that. I think he's a wonderful horse. I'm very happy for the connections and for Upstart as well, the stallion. He deserves to have a Grade 1 horse. That's his first Grade 1 winner. But, man, it's going to be a chore for Zenden to win the Kentucky Derby, and we'll see what happens.
Does this now help a little bit more a horse like Charge It?
Yeah. No, I mean, look, Charge It's problem, like we talked about last week, is, again, similar to Taiba. He's had very few opportunities. So Charge It needs to break well, and he needs to put himself in the race and not get into that kind of traffic issues and stuff like that. Now, his jockey, after Emmanuel didn't make it, looks like he'll probably be ridden by Luis Saez. Luis Saez is known for being an aggressive rider out of the gate. He needs to get a really good post. Post for him is going to be important, and he needs to really, really ask him early on, while not using all of him, to get the 1.25 mile distance. Again, he's one that's still on the fence. I know Todd Pletcher was quoted earlier in the week saying that Charge It is on his way to the Derby. I know the connections, and Mandy Pope has put a lot of money into this game. She's not crazy about the Derby as much as everybody else. She doesn't have Derby fever. She's very practical, and she wants what's best for the horse. So it wouldn't surprise me if maybe we didn't see the horse in the Derby, even though right now he's pointing to it and everything else. So his next 2 works are important from that standpoint for the connections to the side, for sure, that they're going to the Derby, because it's a big ask for a horse like him who's only had 3 lifetime races.
Okay. Let's now take a look at the Wood Memorial. And again, this was another one of John's correct handicapping decisions.
That guy should do that for a living. He's pretty good at that, huh?
Yeah. That's kind of why I like keeping him around. So this was won by Mo Donegal. And of course, Mo Donegal had the disappointing finish in the Holy Bull, but he had some tough company there with White Barrio and Simplification. And let's talk a little bit about his effort here in the Wood.
Well, you look at the Wood. I mean, there's a reason why Joe Rosario is 1 of 1. Okay, they talk about that term with people like Tiger Woods and Floyd Mayweather and people like that. And I think Joel Rosario fits in that mold. I don't think anybody else wins this race.
Really?
I don't think any other jockey wins this race other than Joel Rosario. And that's credit to the ride that Jose Ortiz gave on early voting, because he asked him at the right time, and he opened up at the right time, and just didn't have enough to hold off Mo Donegal, who, saved ground, split horses, drove up. And Joel Rosario, I don't know if he just, when he sleeps, how people count sheep, he might just count jumps to the wire, because nobody is better at timing the wire better than Joel Rosario. And he finds the wire there just in the nick of time, and still makes it look as though it was never in doubt.
Yeah.
He wins by a head, by half a length, and the way he rides the horse, you would think that he thinks he's going to win by 5, because he's so chilly and sits so still on the horse. He never has to take out the stick. He just hand rides him to the wire, and he knows he's going to get up in time. And so it was a great job. And look, all the credit to me on that one goes to Donegal Racing and Todd Pletcher, saying, look, we know Joel Rosario is going to ride Epicenter in the Derby. We get that. Irad, who's been riding this horse, who's been breezing him in the morning time, he stayed in Keeneland to ride Golden Pal, who's an older turf horse. We need the best to try and qualify for this race, because if somebody else rides that horse, he's probably not 1-2, and he's not going to the Derby.
Interesting.
So great job by them reaching out to the best when the best is available. Of course, Joel's going to take an opportunity to go ride a nice horse for a big purse, which he did, and why he fittingly won the Eclipse Award last year. And jockey agent to the Stars, Ron Anderson, was quick to say yes to the ride. But nobody else wins that race. The thing with Mo Donegal, if you go back to the Holy Bull, and we talked about it, he was just giving the horse the race. He looked like a horse that distance was too short for him. It was the first wire at Gulfstream. He did his best running at the end of the race, and he galloped out well. I was never concerned about the trip. The reason we took him off our list was he then got an outside post. He got sick, and he's not a great workhorse. So I didn't know if he can get ready to come back and make this kind of a performance off the bench, which is what he did. And look, Todd Pletcher is the master of the wood. He's won the race 7 times now. Unfortunately, none of those 7 came anywhere close to winning the Kentucky Derby.
Is that a coincidence?
I mean, look, what do they say? Once is an accident, twice is a trend. What is 7 times? So to me, and Escondrea might have been the best of the 7. He had to unfortunately be scratched and didn't run in the race. But when you've won 7 of these, and I think his best performance was an 8th place finish of any of those 6 winners so far, it says a lot. Mo Donegal, you talk about before the wise guy horse.
Yes.
Mo Donegal is going to be the wise guy horse.
Okay.
Going into this race, Mo Donegal with the connections, with Irad Ortiz will get the mount back at board. Todd Pletcher, Hall of Fame trainer, he's won this race twice before. Big syndicate that owns the horse, they'll all be buzzing about him. Hoping to bring the Kentucky Derby trophy to Iowa, where Jerry Crawford lives, the main partner. I think he's going to be the wise guy horse, but again, he's going to be pace compromised, and he needs everything to break his way, and I don't know that's going to happen. Again, from a race that has not produced a winner since Funny Side back in 2003.
Okay, so I mean, what does that, what does that mean though? Does that mean that it's not the right? You should be traveling to New York. That's a bad surface before the Derby. I mean, that's why I'm saying it sounds like a coincidence.
There's a lot of things to it, right? Nobody wants to be in New York in the wintertime. I've been here the whole time.
Okay.
It's miserable. So you can't. Well, not that you can't, because early voting's been there all winter, and he ran a good second. But it's difficult to train there in the wintertime because you don't know what the weather's going to be like. Where when you're in Florida, Todd Pletcher, I promise you, other than when the horse got sick, he never had to sit there and look at his weather app and be like, track's frozen today in Florida. Yeah. He might have worried there was an alligator on the track.
Yeah.
It rain a little bit. If it rains, the work gets pushed back a day or two. It's okay. Okay, it's almost like the old joke with the Cincinnati Bengals, that they never have an indoor practice facility that can never make it to the Super Bowl. Well, now they made it to the Super Bowl, so anything is possible. Okay, horses can come from New York. It just hasn't really worked out, and that is one of those things. When horses come from Florida, it hasn't been of late. They're A-string horses. It's been a B or C-string horse that's won the Wood. So they're not supposed to go on and win. It's not like the horses that came out of the Wood went to the Derby as the favorite. They've been 15-1, 20-1, so they're not supposed to win. So it's okay. This horse, because he won as a 2-year-old, the Remsen at 1 1/8, where he beat Zendon controversially, right? There was a chance that maybe it could have been a DQ or something like that from the ride. They said this horse likes this track. We want a point for this track at this. They were okay with it. Now, from a time standpoint, it's 4 weeks where, look, some of the other preps, the Arkansas Derby is 5 weeks. The Fairgrounds race was 6 weeks. Does a horse need a little bit of extra rest now going into the biggest race of his life? Maybe they do. Maybe that's a thing. Back in the day when the Wood was a very, very important prep, horses ran every week. They ran in the Derby trial 5 days before they ran in the Derby. Nowadays, horses run 5 times in a year.
Yeah.
So maybe the spacing is more important for them to recover and to run a big race. And that's the only thing. The Bluegrass as well hasn't had a lot of success of late. Again, a prep that's had 4 weeks prior to the Derby.
So when you see the fact that Mo Donegal has 5 races, 4 of them actually 3 of them where he's won were in New York.
Mm-hmm.
1 was in Florida, which is what you mentioned, the Holy Bull. You could say, well, maybe he just prefers or he feels more comfortable in those conditions because that's where he's training most of the time. But now you're going to take him out again and head down south like you did the Gulfstream, and you're going to be at Churchill, and maybe that's just It's just not a
Yeah,
good
but
idea.
I like what Todd Pletcher's doing. Look, he's a Hall of Fame trainer. He's taking the horses down there this week. They're going to train over that track for 3 weeks. They'll have 2 workouts leading up to the Derby over there. One of his top assistants, Amelia Green, who gets on Life is Good every day, will be overseeing that string. She'll be getting on the majority of the Derby and Oaks horses and things of that nature. She got on Malafat every day going to the Derby last year and to the Oaks last year. She won. She got on Colonel Liam. Colonel Liam won, dead heated for the turf race. She has a great rapport with these horses. So like to see her getting aboard these top horses, like to see them kind of getting acclimated to the surface. So there's a lot to like about those horses and the job Todd Pletcher does. But again, he's a wise guy horse, and I'm probably just too dumb. I'm just not wise enough to go with the wise guys. So I think he's a nice horse. I think he'll be closing. He's definitely a must use on the bottom half of your tickets, but as of now, I wouldn't be putting him, as a win candidate for me.
John said, well, so far he's only got sheets for Mo Donegal ran an 8. So
Okay.
he continues to move forward 9-8. Actually, the last 3 races 13-9-8, and for Zandon he ran a 7. So he's got his last 3 12-8 7. So he continues of a nice forward move. So, all right, now I want to take a look at your poll here. We'll go over some of these other horses. Well, first of all, again, Cyberknife, Epicenter, White Barrio, still 1, 2, 3. So Mo Donegal makes his way to number 4, and you've had him in the poll before, but you've explained why. 5, Simplification. 6, Zandon. Charge It moves up from 9 to 7. Now, Crown Prince, he's in at number 8. Talk a little bit about Crown Prince.
Oh, he's here. He's here. A lot of times the UA Derby winner doesn't show up. He's a Japanese-bred horse that I saw live in Dubai. Again, is going to sit the right kind of trip. Going to have that stalking trip. Christophe Lemaire is going to ride him for the first time. He won 4 races in Saudi Arabia. He's the top jockey in Japan. He's a French rider, but he speaks fluent Japanese. He's been riding in Japan for quite some time now. The reason why he's gaining momentum into the list, aside from the fact that he was apparently on the track for like an hour and a half every day, nobody's going to know that track at Churchill better than him because they train those horses much, much differently than they do in the States. He is synonymous with what's been going on for the last year and a half, and that's the rise of these Japanese horses winning all of our races. They won 2 Breeders' Cup races. They won 4 in Saudi. They won 5 in Dubai. They're well prepared. They come with a plan. They'll school him in the paddock a lot. They'll school him in the gate. He's not going to be surprised, and he's not as crazy as you guys might remember a few years ago, that horse Lonnie, who was just absolute nut. This horse has a lot more of a laid-back, relaxed personality, which I think is a good thing going for him. And it's just one of those things where, again, with some of these defections we've seen over the last 48, 72 hours, I'm starting to kind of see in my mind, and we'll talk obviously much more about this as it gets closer, how the situation and the scenario of the race sets up. And for me, Crown Prince is sitting a better trip, is going to be closer than some of these other horses that are coming from further behind and are really, really going to be compromised, because a horse like Barber Road or Uno Ho are going to be outkicked by some of the other horses. So I just can't justify putting them in the top 10 list when I think it's going to be so tough for them. At least Crown Prince will have one of the first runs against the leaders. If he's good enough, that's what we need to find out.
Okay, and it's interesting because it's how do you spell the horse's name?
Who's that?
Crown Prince. Is it just like it sounds, right?
Just like that, yeah.
Because in the, what is it? Is this I don't know why in this Kentucky Derby it says here, let's see, Tales from the Crib, Crown Pride.
It might be Crown Pride.
Oh, it could be Crown Pride.
That's Crown Pride.
Oh, okay. Just making sure.
Yeah.
All right. It doesn't matter what the horse doesn't know his name, does he? Do the horses know their names?
Yeah.
Like oh, they do. So you can call the horse and he'll understand.
Yeah, Cyberknife's been called many names over the year and a half that he's been around.
All right.
Some of them are okay for air, not so much.
Okay. Now the 9 horses Taiba, So we talked about Taiba and 10 Zozos. So what's up with Zozos?
Look, Zozo's a lightly raced horse, another one. Just going to be making his 4th career start. He actually breezed with Cyberknife the week before he broke his maiden. That's when we knew he was going to be okay. Was very green when he won first time out. Very professional when he won second time out. And ran good second behind Epicenter in his 3rd career start. He's got enough points to get in. Brad Cox, obviously the reigning Kentucky Derby winner. And the thing with him is he's back on the work tab, and I love last week. First work back, where normally from a trainer, your first work after a race is going to be kind of an easy kind of maintenance leg stretching exercise. He came home the last quarter in 23 seconds flat, showing all signs that he's come out of the fairgrounds and Louisiana Derby very well. Gone over to Churchill, where he hasn't trained a lot. Okay, he didn't run until the end of his 2-year-old, well, the beginning of his 3-year-old year, really, in fairgrounds. So he hasn't trained a lot at Churchill. Looks like he likes that track. That's a track a little bit tricky sometimes. You want to make sure the horses are going over it well. And so to come home the last quarter in 23 seconds certainly caught my eye. The interesting thing with him is going to be who rides. Florent Giroux today was announced will stick with Cyberknife. So Zozos is going to need a new pilot. Who it will be, we will soon find out.
Okay. And horses that made their way out, and a couple of these are because they're not racing. Forbidden Kingdom, right? He's out.
Yeah, he's out. He's going to be on the sidelines for a little
Emmanuel, he's had his chances.
Emmanuel's going to run on the grass next time.
Emmanuel?
Nine Ridges. So he might run in the Belmont Derby instead of the Belmont Stakes.
Morello?
So Morello's interesting. That was a tough one. I tried to trick you. I had 11 horses on the list when I first submitted the list. Morello's kind of in no man's land right now. Unfortunately, everything went wrong. You talk about not needing the points for some of these horses. He had 50 points, so he was in. And he's still in. Unfortunately, they wanted to see if he can go a little bit further than the races he's won. And coming out of the gate, he hit the side of the gate, broke a little slow, had some traffic trouble, and just was a generally unhappy horse. So he never got a chance to see. It's a total unknown. He's going to ship to Churchill Downs. He's been in New York the whole time with Steve's assistant, Toby Sheets. Going to ship to Churchill. And Steve says, look, I have no idea what to say. Whether he's going to make it or not make it is all going to depend on the next 2 weeks. And with the wishy-washy, you're not sure if you're running in the race. Right now, we got to take a timeout on our relationship. And he's got to go to the sidelines until we know for sure he's going to run.
Okay. And Messier?
Messier, I thought was a little bit of a disappointment. I know he worked hard. He ended up with something like 100 buyer. I think Taiba got 102 buyer as they continue. The buyers they might as well just call it the Baffords instead of the buyers. I think if they just changed the name to the Baffert Speed Figure, it would make a lot more sense because they love Bob. They went back and decided that the race was getting faster, and the 2 Bob Baffert horses need to get a faster buyer and everything else. So look, I thought Messier did do the dirty work, but I didn't think the fractions were absolutely blistering. I don't think that there was anybody else in the race. So the fact that he's 10 lengths clear of Happy Jack means absolute jack to me. I don't think it means anything. And he's supposed to put away Taiba in just his 2nd career start. Now, Taiba might be that good. He might be, the second coming of Secretariat and whatever. We'll find out in 4 weeks. But for Messier not to put him away, for Messier to do the dirty work and to not put the puck in the net, to me, that I didn't.
And there's no way
it
was about, hey, we're in the clear, we're gonna make it, we're in 2nd place, nobody's behind us. I'm not gonna push the horse.
No. He's trying to win the race. He's definitely trying to win the race. So to me, now, I mean, once he was passed, I don't think he beat him up to get to the wire. But I mean, Taiba didn't pass him till kind of towards the end anyway. So I was a little bit disappointed in what I saw. Now, it will not surprise me, and we'll find out as we get closer, if Messier tries to get that authentic kind of trip in the Kentucky Derby to where he just tries to take him gate to wire and he goes and bottoms him out and goes a half in 46 and dares everybody else to try and catch him. Unfortunately, I think this is not the 1994 New York Rangers, and I don't think that Messier will be lifting up the Stanley Cup anytime soon.
All right. And the other...
I also don't that guarantee that Messier made before the St.
And as far as the only horse we did not talk about that's in the top 10 in the standings or in the top 10 in your rankings is Tis the Bomb. So Tis the Bomb.
Tis the Bomb will be a bomb despite the fact that he has all these points going.
Wow.
He's a turf horse. His dirt races have been abysmal.
That was the Jeff Ruby Stakes winner?
Yes. Won the race on synthetic. He kind of unofficially won the Breeders' Cup Juvenile Turf despite running second after that whole snafu, whatever, with Modern Games. He's a turf horse. There's no reason to talk about him because he's a turf horse. He'll be in the race. I believe he'll be sold following the race or before the race. And I think he'll end up running in Europe the second half of the year. So this might be your last chance to see Tis the Bomb in America. But it won't be. If he wins the race, I will be very, very, very surprised.
Okay. And you said the Lexington. Do we have to kind of wait until next week now? Like when we're talking next week, will we be pretty sure who's running in the Derby?
Yeah. No. Once we talk next week, we'll know who's in, and then it'll just be a matter of defections. We're waiting on Chad Brown with early voting. He's indicated that maybe he'll wait for the Preakness. Charge It again right now is in, but we'll see what happens. And then, of course, along the next few weeks, you got to keep those horses in bubble wrap because at any point, could get a fever, could get a little strain, a little tweak, whatever. It's always been amazing to me because in horse racing, it always seems like somebody gets hurt the 2-3 weeks leading up to the Derby. And in the Super Bowl, when they have that 2-week span to the Super Bowl, when they're off it never seems like anybody gets hurt. Yeah. I don't know if they don't practice those 2 weeks. It's all walkthroughs, whatever the case may be. I know the one guy got arrested one time in Atlanta, but other than that, I don't recall anybody really getting hurt. And of course,
they lost. It's sort of like what happened when Andy Reid's son, unfortunately.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, that's whenever you could just tell. Oh, remember? No, that's right. Remember when the Raider center went had some really suicidal kind of things going on?
He went missing and they lost.
Yeah.
So it's
you can't get distracted the week of the Super Bowl.
It's the same thing. It's the same thing with horse racing, right? All hands on deck. Your staff's got to be there bright and early. Everything goes well. And look, it's going to be exciting. We got less than 4 weeks to go to the there's a champion crowned, and these months of our podcast come to fruition of are we right or are we wrong?
Oh, we'll have a good month to figure this all out. Good 4 weeks, figure it all out. But
it was fun watching the Arkansas Derby with Jonathan though, who before the race had said this is the worst day of my life, and probably Cyberknife will run last, and then nobody will ever want to do a radio show with me ever again. So that was watching the race with him basically already writing himself off.
So he's one of those guys.
He was very curmudgeon going into the race, but fortunately Cyberknife was able to kind of turn things around, and I don't think he's given out a loser on your show in the 2 weeks since then. So, he's getting hot at the right time. I'm interested to see his thoughts on the Lexington, on Saturday, and where that goes, and then who ultimately he ends up with on the Derby. That Derby.
That's going to be hard for him to not say Cyberknife. That's for sure.
I think at that stage that'll be the only word in his mouth. Yes.
And he says he got me a ticket. I can't remember. I could have sworn it was the $70 one, but I think it's now the $30 one. So
no, 33 to 1. That's still $68.
Yeah. I hope so. I just haven't even asked him since the winner. So I have to make sure I still have a ticket. He hasn't given them all away already. So I know we have one to give away on the air. Like I said, we have to figure that out. How are we going to
give it away? How are we going to give it away?
I don't know. Well, it's easy. We could just say, the first person who gets, because we have 2 tiers. First, we only have one person with the $10 tier. So first person who gives us another $10 tier gets a ticket, something like that. But I'll figure that out.
Already in the $10 tier.
Who?
Well, you said you already have people in the top tier.
I got one person in the $10 tier. Everybody else is in the $5 tier. For some reason, they don't want to spend the extra $5. And that's this guy Matthew Chamorro, who's got the $10 tier. He gets to pick the race every week. because he's the only one with the extra $5. That's one of the bonuses that you get to decide. I'll give him 3 or 4 races. All right, which one do you out of these 3 or 4 races you want, Matthew? And he gives us the.
Oh, you're giving 3 or 4 races. I wish he'd say like I want to pick the third at Fair.
No, we're not going to allow that.
Make Jonathan get the sheets on the donkeys or the bulls or whatever that is. The camel race at Canterbury.
Yeah,
I want to see Matthew step up his game this week. I want a nice request for Matthew's second race this week.
I got it.
If he watches it, he might not even watch this show.
It's from my pool. I got to give it to him. Hey, lastly, before I let you go, I was watching this movie that I had never seen before, and I didn't even know it was a movie because it had Kurt Russell in it. I was like, oh, Kurt Russell. I go,
you're talking about Dream.
Horse movie with Kurt Russell. I don't remember. Oh, it's Chris Christopherson. I mean, they had a ton of really good actors. So I'm like, all right, I got to check this out. It was a very poorly directed movie. I mean, the writing or the directing, I couldn't tell which was worse. But the story itself, obviously they always take liberties.
No, but it's a true story. It's based on a true story. And I'll tell you a funny story about that. Who's the girl that the star of that movie?
Is that her?
Is that Panettiere or whatever?
What was the name?
Hayden Panettiere? No, that was, remember. Who was the? No. Dakota Fanning.
Dakota Fanning. There you go.
So I was at Keeneland. I was actually working for Keeneland. I was going to college when they were most of that movie's filmed at Keeneland. One of the freakiest thing in my life was watching 5 Dakota Fannings because she was a child actress. You're only allowed to work so many scenes or so many hours. So in that movie, this is a true fact. In that movie, the speaking scenes are all the real Dakota Fanning. Anytime she's not speaking and her back's to the camera, or her side's to the camera, it's a different Dakota Fanning. Okay, it was a stand-in. And watching the 5 of them playing jacks one day when I was at Keeneland was unbelievably scary. It looked like Friday the 13th or something like that. Because they all
were all together.
While they're doing, all the stand-in look just like her. It was unbelievable to see. And if you watch the movie, you'd have no idea that Dakota Fanning's not acting in the whole movie. Sure. Really, she's only in about a third of it because she got to do homework.
It's funny.
And things of that. So little known fact for the movie Dreamer.
I got to ask you, who is the trainer? Who was supposed to be the trainer? I'm the owner. No, the trainer, right? Was he the owner or a trainer? Of Kurt Russell that fired him.
Yeah, I don't remember.
Because this can't be for real. Because if this is for real, this guy is getting put to the woodshed.
Yeah, no, it's based on a true story though.
I know. I got to figure out what role he was portraying. I'll check it out because again, it has to be for a real person. And I can't imagine that real person looks at that movie. He's gonna go, they're ripping me apart here, making me look like a real scumbag. And I'm telling you, it's a. I mean, you remember, right? You saw it.
Yeah. No, same thing with that HBO show Luck. That some of the characters there were based on some personalities in Santa Anita, very closely related personalities.
Okay. Was that a good show?
It's very good, and hopefully we have a movie-like ending, a Cinderella-like ending to the Kentucky Derby in just a few weeks.
By the way, David Morse played Palmer, whoever Palmer is supposed to be. I'll find that out, and we'll talk about it next week.
Okay.
And I know you can't wait. By the way, another thing, just before you go, Alaska has 34 earthquakes a day.
Not quite 200.
Not quite. You know what it was? It was the number 12,000 that got me confused. That's how many they have a year.
That'll do that too.
Yeah. All right, Chad. We'll talk next week. We'll find out what's going on with the Lexington and much more. So appreciate you being here as usual.
Hopefully it won't be a rocky week.
That went over my head?
You were talking about earthquakes.
Okay. Nice try. Thanks, Chad.
I'll talk to you later. Bye.